What is up, everybody? TC here with Smoky Knife Works, smkw.com, and today we've got a really cool guest that we're going to talk about a new brand to Smoky Mountain Knife Works. We've been carrying them now for a few months, but we are talking with Connor from Toor Knives. Connor, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys having me.
Now, before we get started, if you like this video, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you will know when we drop new videos like this. And we've got some really cool new stuff to talk about. So without further ado, let's light it up. Connor, first I want to talk about what got you into making knives.
So it's kind of a funny story. I was actually in the skateboard manufacturing industry, and I was getting ready to go to the military. And the company that I was working for, the skateboard company, was starting to go out of business. So naturally, I went off to boot camp, did my required training there, and came back. And I'm like, well, I want to get into knife making because I still had like that creative spirit for making things like skateboards. And naturally I was kind of like, well, let's try and forge something and see what we can make. And my first project actually wasn't a knife. It was a bunch of wrought iron, like fireplace hooks. So I'd already started like banging on steel and figuring out how to like move metal. But my forge wasn't getting hot enough for like blade steel, right? Because it's getting up to 1900 degrees. So
right.
I built a forge out of like brick and mortar, but I didn't have any forced air into it. So I used a hair blow dryer. And that's what was pushing air into my forge.
Wow.
First couple times I was making knives, I like melted a couple blades in half. So Jeez. I basically learned in my backyard, but like as I would make a few, I would give them some of them to my buddies in the Marine Corps. And one thing led to another. And all of a sudden, like people were placing orders with, people in my unit or whatever. So I'd be making these really, really gnarly, ugly looking beat up blades. But these guys are still using them. So I think it was probably around 2016, I decided like, you know what, I'm going to go at this full time. And I started actually going with the stock removal bladesmithing. So I had my first sheet of steel cut, which you can actually see right behind me. That's the first sheet of steel right there.
That is freaking cool. And that's a cool display too.
Yeah, got a couple grinders and started grinding some bevels and learning how to heat treat using kilns instead of a forge. And then, one thing leads to another with over the course of 5 years now. And we've got about 40 employees in a whole manufacturing facility, and we're still pumping, similar designs to what we started with for fixed blades.
Yeah.
But now we're able to do things like folding knives and implement like technology and CNC machines and really dial these things so there's repeatability in the process.
That's really cool. And first off, I want to say thank you for your service, sir. I appreciate it. That is awesome. And that's a really great start. I like how you wanted to continue that creativity and that artistry and how it carried over into making something really awesome and really useful as well. So you mentioned your production facility, and that's another really cool thing that I've talked a lot about when we've plugged you guys and talked about you guys, because I think that's very inspirational and awe-inspiring. What you're trying to do as far as efficiency. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I think it starts with kind of like the vision and really the culture of what we're trying to create here. And instead of going for like purely a performance-based company as far as like financials go, we've always based it around the people. And we've always said people, process, product. So anytime anyone asks, they're like, well, where do you see your company in 5 years? I always say, well, we want a team of 100 employees. I want to create 100 jobs for the company. And it started really by investing in the people and creating these jobs and bringing in engineers. And that's what got us to grow so fast with the process. And it's really everyone that's invested their time back into the company to where now we can compete, using like the highest technology that's available to create these things. So, obviously we're learning every day, but the culture of the company has always been like, let's focus on the people. If we focus on the people in the company, the process will follow. And of course, you have a good process, like the product comes out awesome.
Yeah.
But it's our people that, like, I truly believe that, if we're not purely going off of just performance and we're focusing on everyone who's out there, then you're going to have a great product.
Yeah.
So I think, as we grow and we talk about efficiency and everything, it has to do with who we put in certain positions and support them, especially on the engineering side, because that's where you grow, right? Like forging a blade in the backyard is not very efficient,
right?
And it's not repeatable either. So like, we wouldn't be able to give you guys the same serpent over and over and over and over and over. But it's all the guys out there who have kind of taken the vision and the ideas and the designs and come up with a really, really strong process using, the best technology we can get our hands on. And we're creating this really simple product line, but it's supporting American jobs. And we're doing it all here,
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And your production is also very green, very environment minded, which is really cool. I mean, that's something that, not a lot of people can say, and not a lot of people are going down that avenue, because I know it's tough. But again, going back to what you just said about, your employees being, what takes you there, that just shows your mindset and how you approach it very different than most people do. And that's, I respect that. And I know our customers do too. I think that's phenomenal.
Right. And I think it's important too. I think everyone who's in manufacturing has a responsibility to do it, environmentally sustainable, like not being, if you're irresponsible with how you're doing it, you can only imagine how much waste comes out of a factory.
Right.
So we've kind of decided that we're going the more expensive route, and especially being in California, working with the EPA out here, but we're using like bioconcept coolants that are not harmful to the environment. And people ask us all the time too, like, why do you use KG gun coat? Well, at the end of the day, like KG gun coat is not labeled as an environmentally hazardous material. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
Most paints or Cerakotes or anything, right? Like it's going to have some sort of like hazard.
Right.
But this is labeled as like so that's why we pick the certain process or the materials or why we recycle everything.
Yeah.
I couldn't give you an exact number right now, but I can tell you right now that everything we recycle far outweighs what we just throw into the landfill.
That is awesome. That is really cool. And props to you guys. That is a tremendous amount of respect for you guys for not only being able to do that, but wanting to do it and following through with it. That's really
right.
Cool. Now, onto your blades and the stuff that you guys are making. Let me first ask about steel. So what kind of blade steel do you use?
So the three big ones, CPM S35, CPM 154, and CPM 3V. Use some D2 as well. But we've gotten really good at working with those three materials in specific, just, the type of finish we get from machining or grinding. And I think it's a pretty good, without getting too much into the metallurgy of knives and everything and super steels, those three steels cover down on almost anything you'll need a blade, to use for. So, CPM 154 being great for like corrosion resistance, or 3V being like a super tough steel for like tactical blades, and S35 speaks for itself. So, as far as the steels go, they really revolve around our process. And, as we design, and what we say is we design blades purpose built. So we're designing for a certain task. Like, sure, you can make a blade that's good for everything, right? But it's not going to be great at one thing.
Right.
But what we're trying to achieve is making like purpose built blades that are great at one or two things, and it starts with the steel. So, for the tactical stuff, we like to stay with the 3V unless we're going with like a natural stone finish or an uncoated blade.
Right.
But CPM 154, it's great for the outdoor stuff. It's not going to rust. It's going to hold an edge. It's easy to resharpen. S35 for folding knives, like, it's a great steel. Chris Reeves, like Tim Reeve, one of the guys that I look up to a lot in the game. I mean, it's one of the steels that they helped develop. So
yeah, and I mean, we've featured you guys on a lot of different stuff. Huge fan here. I've got one of your chasms. Isaac has one of your. Which one does he have? The Suitor. Yes, he has the Suitor. And love those things. We've also recently gotten some newer stuff in that we didn't have to begin with, including some of your axes, like this one here. And these things are really freaking cool. Now, I want to ask, and this is where it fascinates me the most, is where do you get inspiration for your designs?
So it all comes from the military when we're talking about the tactical stuff. When I was overseas, we saw a lot of guys carrying tomahawks for like breaching doors or like windows. I'm like, that's a really, really cool tool for that. Normally they're used for throwing, or it's, kind of like that native style tool.
Yeah.
And I think really it was Winkler who kind of jumped in the game with tomahawks, and a lot of those guys started carrying them overseas, and it's a perfect tool for what they were using for. So our goal with our axes and tomahawks was to make them just a little bit smaller, because we wanted them to be easier to carry, like on the belt or if you're getting in and out of a vehicle. But at the same time, they're fun to throw, like if you're hanging out in the backyard drinking beer or whatever. It's still like a fun tool to play with.
Well, and speaking of that, you just released a video on your Brocker. Is that how you pronounce it? And the video is absolutely hilarious. That is insane, and I love it.
Those are our two inside sales guys here, Vern and Colin, which you're aware of Colin, but
yeah.
It was an easy decision. We're brainstorming with the idea. We're like, oh yeah, these are for sure the two dudes that we need in the video.
Yeah, we absolutely love that video. You guys released it, I think, yesterday, and we saw it immediately, and I was like, that is amazing. That is awesome. I love it. So in that same kind of vein, when we're speaking of tactical, we've got this one here, the Karsumba.
Yep.
And I was actually looking at it a couple of days ago and then looking at it again today. And I wanted to ask you about the ergonomics of it, and when you actually snuck like into my house when I was sleeping or something and took a mold of my hand, because this thing is insanely ergonomic. The way that it fits in the hand is perfect.
That was our first. So we recently got a 3D printer, and that was the first knife that we 3D printed. And we printed it out of the foam or whatever comes out of the printer.
Right.
And we basically took like everyone's hand and had them squeeze that foam, and then we just adjusted all the CAD to it. So it fits really good, but we also wanted to keep it smaller, because the whole purpose was basically like an appendix carry concealable blade.
Right.
And that's why it doesn't have a ring on it, right? Because a lot of karambits traditionally have rings. So we didn't want to call it like a traditional karambit, but we wanted like an appendix carry fighting knife for like self-defense.
Right. And I mean, the way that it's made, and this is what's so phenomenal to me, is that it fits in the hand really nice as a traditional karambit for self-defense, but it's also a very useful blade just holding it normally, almost like you would a hawkbill or something like that.
And what's interesting about that, we've had like a lot of union style workers, electricians, the guys who are up in the lines too. They're like, this would be a great knife just for like working on the job, because it just has that slow curve throughout the blade.
Absolutely.
And it gets razor sharp, like scary sharp with that gut in it. So it's a cool shape. We never really thought that it would be used for anything outside of like the self-defense fighting knife. But
right.
At the end of the day, man, like it came out as something that's like really more of like a utility blade as well.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and I love the way that thing fits in the hand. Those ergonomics are outrageous, and that's definitely going to be one that is on my radar there. Now, I want to ask this too, because I noticed that, I mean, everything you make is full tang and very strong, and also the thickness of the steel that you use, it's a lot thicker than a lot of companies use. And is there a reason behind that? I know strength is obviously going to be paramount when it comes to that, but is there a line of thinking? Is there something specific that you're trying to achieve with that?
Yeah, so we used to make them, fixed blades at an 1/8 inch or 3/16. But as we learned like different grind techniques and being able to change the geometry on the grind, we were able to go thicker on the steel, but raise the grind up higher. So you still have the same angle and sharpening life. So it gave us like that extra durability, especially for dudes who are taking them like overseas or using them to like, pry open a lock or a door.
Yeah.
We don't want it to fail there. And at the end of the day too, like our goal is not to make like the prettiest or the most refined blade. We're trying to make the strongest blade.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's where our little area of the market is just making the strongest knife. So most of our fixed blades are like 3/16 thick steel, but the bevel's higher, so you still have that sharpening life.
Yeah, and right now I'm showing this one here, and this thing is an absolute beast, and exactly what you were just talking about. I also love the work you guys are doing with the liners too. It's purely aesthetic, but I love the way that looks. I think it's just
that's a little touch of the skateboard industry right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing all the colors and everything.
That is super cool. Super cool. Now, in a little bit of a different vein, you've got this one here. I'm not remembering the name of it, but it's
the Avalon.
The Avalon, yes.
Yeah.
The fillet knife. That thing is wicked right there. What was the inspiration for that? I guess that's the question that I always like to ask, is the inspiration, because that's what I like to hear.
So I had to get it out of my head. We've been thinking about it for a while, and I'm used to freshwater fishing, so it's a smaller blade, right? But the biggest challenge with this one, and the reason we wanted to tackle it, is because it's the thinnest blade that we do. So it's about 0.1 inches thick. So it still has a little bit of flex, but not too much to where you're like bending the knife in half basically, and it doesn't feel sturdy.
Right.
So this was kind of like our first out of a couple fillet knives that we're going to start offering, but it can be used for like saltwater fish. But we are going to be bumping up the size, to 12-inch blade on the saltwater stuff. But we wanted to prove to ourselves that we could still grind and keep everything symmetrical on a blade that's 100 thousandths thick, without losing like the true edge geometry and the actual overall dimension of the blade.
Right. So, and you just mentioned maybe something new coming and bumping up the size of that one a little bit. And we obviously already talked about the new axe, the Brocker there that's coming out. So there's also a new folder that's on the way as well.
Yes, there's a couple.
Oh, okay. I was only aware of the one, the Admiral, but
okay. Yeah, so the Admiral was kind of an exclusive partnership with one of my best friends in the world. He's also a Marine. We started about 6 years ago. He started a watch company. Obviously, I started the knife company. But we've had this idea to do a blade together because it kind of goes along with the theme of like that everyday carry, like pocket arsenal.
Right.
So we wanted to come up with like this super tough looking blade because I think it aligns really well with his watches. And the watches, for those that are watching right now, it's called Sangen Instruments, and they're traditional. You know, they're I think they have a new Swiss movement coming out, and then a couple Japanese movements. They're like the traditional, but at the same time, like you can beat the shit out of them. Yeah. So we wanted to match a knife to that. It took 5 years to do because we wanted to wait until we could do a folder in house, and and we're finally at that point, obviously, where we're making everything start to finish, and it you know, the stars aligned and everything worked out, and we were able to come up with our first exclusive collaborative blade with Sangen Instruments and our first deep carry pocket clip, all in the same blade.
That's freaking awesome. And I've been really excited because I love the look of it. I think it looks fantastic. So you've got another new folder on the way as well.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff dropping through the end of the year. It puts us in a good spot too, because you know a lot of companies are having trouble with the port situation and importing their product, where we're kind of, you know, at the mercy of what our capacity is here in San Diego. So we've got a Tonto Chasm coming out next month. And then we have the second variation of the Merchant coming out in November.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah, so we'll be updating the Merchant. Obviously, like as we grow and learn, we've already made a few adjustments to it, but we're going to be thinning down the handle scales, going to a deep carry pocket clip, a lock bar stop, and a slightly different blade. So
nice.
We're really excited about that one. Maybe a couple different colors, we don't know, but you know, come November, like that's pretty much it. We're just producing at that point. Because like I said, we're in a good spot, especially because all of our vendors where we get our material are from the United States. Even our boxes now are all domestically sourced.
That's cool.
So we're not going to have that issue of product being stuck at the port. So we're hitting it really, really, really hard for Q4, and we're coming out with a few new products. But we're going to be refining at the same time and just bumping up those numbers. That way, nobody's waiting for Christmas gifts or whatever. Yeah. Everyone's got access to this new product.
That is awesome. So you've got several new products in the works through the end of the year.
Yeah, a couple different colorways for the current line. You know, we're going to keep pushing the Venom Serpent, which you guys have, the dealer exclusive. And then, of course, the folding knives that we're going to be making a few adjustments to and pushing those really hard to the end of the year as well.
Nice. That is absolutely awesome. 1 second. I'm going to check this camera, make sure it's still good. The next thing I want to talk about is we've got one, and we haven't been able to record it yet, but we've got it coming out very soon because we've been insanely busy. But we've got this Field 2.0 right here that we are going to be torture testing with our Will It Cut series, and I'm really, really excited about that. Really excited to see what we're going to put this thing through. I have no doubts about it with its construction and how insane this thing is. So I'm super excited about it, and thank you for the opportunity to do that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to see what we can hammer this thing through, and it's going to be really cool. And I have no doubts that it is just going to fly through everything with ease. But that is something that we've got coming up that is really exciting, and that we're going to be doing with you guys. And also, for all the folks that stuck around through this entire video and are looking forward to all the new stuff that you guys have got coming, we're going to do a giveaway. And I didn't mention this before, but we're going to do a giveaway of a jank shank right here. We've got a jank shank that we're going to do a giveaway on this video. So what you're going to need to do is you are going to need to click the link in the description below. And here's the deal, all right? You have to be a subscriber of ours, but you also need to follow Toor Knives. Now, what is your Instagram and YouTube?
So it's simple, just Instagram and Facebook, YouTube. It's all just at Toor Knives. YouTube's Toor Knives, so super easy.
Nice. So you need to be following Toor Knives on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. That's going to get, the more you do, the more entries you're going to get to win this jank shank. All right, we're going to give that away. So you're going to have a week to enter to win. All you got to do is click the link in the description below. It's going to take you to Up Viral, our Up Viral. And what that's going to do is it's going to collect all the things that you do and give you points. So the more things you do, like, share, comment, subscribing, that's going to give you more points. And you have to be following us. You have to be following Toor Knives. And that is going to get you entered to win this jank shank right here. Comes in the package with the sticker, with the sheath, with the cleaning cloth. It's a great package, and it's a really, really cool knife. What's the blade steel on this one, Connor?
That is S35. Yeah, CPM.
That's what I was thinking. Yep. Yeah. That is a really, really cool knife. And as a thank you to you folks, that's what we're going to be giving away right there. And we're really excited about that. Connor, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. For you, I
appreciate it from you guys.
Absolutely.
It was awesome.
I mean, you took time out of your busy schedule and out of your day to do this with us, and we really appreciate it. I love, and one of my favorite things and our audience favorite things is getting to see kind of the inside of the mind of the people designing these things. And it adds a little bit of ownership to the people that are buying these things. They can say, well, now I understand why this is the way it is. And it gives a little bit of insight into the creativity in the mind of the person designing it and where it comes from. So that I think it adds a great piece of ownership to it. So thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate that, Connor. And we look forward to all the new stuff that you guys have got coming up through the end of the year.
Absolutely. We'll have to do this again soon.
Absolutely, Connor. Thank you so much. And folks, remember, if it cuts like a Toor, then we carry it.